What is the flavor of a beingness that's here, a presence, what they some of them call our true nature? We, as we look at different expressions of this, just notice which ones kind of loudest and most prominent and which are less prominent in your system. Silence. What's most like silence that's here? Peace. What's most like peace that's here now? Connectedness. Causeless connectedness. It's most like that. And what about a sense of openness? Some people call it a yes, that our nature is just a yes. It just welcomes what's here. An openness, a yes, a welcoming. What's most like that, which is here. And then in your unique system, what quality of beingness is the most prominent, is the loudest, is the one that is felt and known the most? What's your word for that? It's most prominent. And the invitation is to we just let ourselves sink into that or as that. You let it pervade us, fill us, sink into it. Is this self, this beingness, is it something you're aware of or also aware as? And then from here, what's the relation with the parts or with your thoughts, feelings, and sensations? What's the relation with the narrative voices you might be hearing? Oh, I should do this differently. Oh, I'm really enjoying this. I like this space. Things I need to do in my life. My body aches. How fun to be together. As you hear whatever the voices are that you hear, what's your relationship with them? Where are they coming from? And then this is what we call the roomie's guest house. Sense of all of these voices, everything that arises, all of these parts are just precious guests that are being welcomed. And you find that a welcoming of what's arising inside of you without needing to do anything, just a welcoming from here, an awareness of. And then if we notice see what the loudest two arisings in you are. What are the loudest two? As you notice your parts, these thoughts, these feelings, these sensations, what are the loudest two? Maybe there's some anxiousness. Maybe it's a do it right. Maybe it's, oh, I really, really like this. What are the loudest two? And this is where we're going to go a little spiritual on us. But those loudest two, you really feel into them, feel into these parts. But only if they're not scary. If there's any kind of reaction, don't do this. But if we feel into these, can you find that there's stuff there, that there's beingness here in the parts themselves? Like, what are they made of? Can you glimpse? Perhaps they're also made of, they're inseparable from the self, this beingness. And if you glimpse that, what changes in your experience here? Does something open up more? Is there a sense of some unity, some love? What opens when we those times when we taste that these parts aren't separate from the beingness? And then lastly, how's your system doing with this? Do you have parts that are showing up like, oh, this is a little bit too much of a stretch, this is exhausting, or I should do this differently? As we listen to, like we're in a restaurant and we can hear all the background noise, what are our parts saying? How are they responding to this? Is it cool, or is like, okay, so when are you going to stop? This is enough of that. Like we just hear what the parts are saying. And can they all be welcomed? Can everything be welcomed? All these precious expressions of us. And lastly, the really good news is that there's 7 of us here with you. Can we be included in this space? Can it really be one big Rumi's guest house, welcoming all of the life that's moving in all of us? And then the beingness, it's not you by yourself anymore. It's not just your square. The beingness is all of us. What's that like? And when you're ready, let's just come back together gently. No place to go, nothing to do. And we can just my system, there's like an enjoyment of kind of shaking some of this off, right? This little place we went. You can just kind of shake it off because as always, there's no place we're going. There's nothing we're doing. We're just celebrating what's here. We're celebrating you. We're celebrating how life is showing up in you, the beauty of you, the perfection, the radiant presence that's here in all of us, just as you are. And just as you're relaxing and coming back, I'm going to just do my quick 1 minute housekeeping. Supposed to do that. I'm a mediator. I'm not a psychotherapist. This isn't the IFS of psychotherapy, friends and colleagues exploring together. If everybody's good, being responsible for their own journeys today, if I get a thumbs up, please. And then secondly, as always, I have record on, but it's just my square. Only my image would ever be shared, never yours. However, if there's any discomfort in having this being recorded, just let me know. I'll make you a co-host and you can click pause, or at the end, you discover there's something you wish you hadn't said, let me know and I'll delete it at the end of today. And but as always, we don't we don't go so much into the story of the parts. We're interested in the welcoming of the parts, the loving of the parts, and the hearing what the parts are longing for and helping them find that home is here. If you're good with this, that the audio that you share today might be shared electronically, if I could get a thumbs up from you, please. All right, here we are. It's playtime. Who's got something bubbling? What's going on? Or what did you find? Like, what are your two loudest parts, and what's your background? Wherever you want to go with this, there's always that interest. Your two loudest parts in the background, or what did you find from that exploration, or what's happening with you? And Sarah, Yesterday, you came to the group and you left before you had to leave early. You didn't get to say anything at all, and I really missed hearing Sarah. I just want to throw that in there. Who wants to go first? There.
Oh, yeah, I had to leave early. Uh, okay. Well, for me, well, there's a very sleepy part. Um, then there's a part that can't sleep properly, having sleeping issues. Um, there's a part that wants to fix it. So the fix it part is really nagging me constantly to find ways to fix this. Um, so yeah, there's not an okayness with this sleep problem. Um, and in the drop-in, I try to be okay with it, to reach to the part that wants to fix it, and to just get to a place where it just lets it go, but it won't. It just feels like, oh no, I'm not letting this go. Like I need proper sleep. Um, so it's been a little bit tricky, and there's just that. Um, a part of it, it's that it makes me like so tired. I can't focus. I can't fully be present because I'm just so sleepy, and all I can think about it is that I just want to sleep. And
Mhm.
yeah.
So how about all these parts, Sarah? How about for all of us as we hear these parts playing in Sarah, how do we respond to them? This part, I'm sleepy. I really need more sleep. Part that's sleepy, part that just that wants to fix it. Like we got to find a way. This isn't working. I need to find a way to get proper sleep. And then maybe a part that's like, okay, can I just find okayness with all of this? And no, the part's like, no, that's not okay. We need to fix this. This is a problem. Like when we hear these expressions in Sarah, can we all see the innocence of those and the sense of welcoming them, welcoming this inner theater that's happening inside of her? And then can we find those parts in our own system? One that's like feels sleepy, another one that's like, gosh, I love back when I could get 8 hours of sleep every night. That's what I need. I felt so good. I really want that. I need to figure this out. And for some of us, this doesn't play. Still see if you can find the voice of the part that finds sleep to be really important, that wants it and holds on to that. And then for all of us and for Sarah, what keeps us from sleeping? Find, are there parts or parts? For some systems, there's even some fear of surrendering because they call it like the with the little death or something like that, the falling asleep. There's some fear in that. A part that wants to control. For others, in sleep, in the surrender in sleep, we touch things that we touch the basement, the exiles that we don't want to touch. And you find there's some protectors that just want to kind of hold on a little bit. They want to protect us. Can you find any protectors that block your sleep? Or if you wake up at 2 a.m., a part that comes in and starts thinking about, oh, this is what we need to do, or this is a problem we need to solve, a part that gets busy and feels like it needs to do something or think about something or fix a problem instead of just the surrender to this flow. What do you find, Sarah? Does any of that hit for your system?
Oh yes. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Sid. Yeah, there's the overthinking part. Um, the ADHD, it's basically scattered, racing thoughts. Um, it would be the part that when I'm trying to sleep, it would think about laundry, or
Yeah.
did I turn off the oven? Go check
Yes.
go check this and go check that. Well, if I can't sleep, I might as well read a book. So it gets up and wants to read. There's just this crazy patterns that happen at night. Then
Yes.
I get some pieces of sleep.
So
Um,
how about that? How about that part? This overthinking part. Just for again, for all of us, we don't want to miss the beauty in this. For all of us, when we hear that in Sarah, her overthinking part, how do we meet that? Is there a welcoming of that? Is there seeing can we see the innocence of that part? It's like, oh, did we do the laundry? Did we turn off the stove? Oh, we're awake. We can do some stuff. We can get some things done. This will be great. Can we see the innocence? Can we love that part that's trying? Can you see? We see how it's trying to help Sarah, right? It's doing its very best to serve her. Can we welcome that in Sarah? Can we fully and notice if you have other parts that come up? It's like, oh gosh, that's a problem. That's difficult. Notice parts or healer parts that want to help, and the sense of welcoming this over what she's calling this. I don't like the word overthinking, like this actively thinking part. Like if we can really welcome it, and then what's the version in our own systems? It might be more active than Sarah's, it might be less, it might be louder. What's your version of it? And can you welcome it? Is it okay that it's here? Is it okay that it's here? And I'm going to push it a little bit further. Is it okay if it stays just the way it is? And Sarah's like, no way. I need to sleep. I don't need to be like thinking about the laundry at 2 a.m. But can we find from self, from beingness, can we find the place that is welcoming it, that just sees the innocence and beauty, just like another child? It's welcome. This one that's trying its hardest. And then let's just take it a little further here. As you hear this part in Sarah that thinks about the laundry, the stove, things I can do, what is it that is longing for? What do you guess that her part is really longing for? This actively thinking part, what is it longing for? What is inspiring its active thinking? What's your guess as you're with that? Coming back to you in just a minute with this, Sarah. And for all of us, then to find our version of the active thinking part, maybe it's an understanding part, a figuring it out part, a to do list part, active thinking. What is it that that part in us is really longing for? What is it really longing for? Is it a sense of, if it gets these things done, then it can rest, then it can have peace? If it gets these things done, there's a sense of structure, a sense of safety. Everything's okay. It finds safety or okayness. If it gets these things done, there's peace. If it does these things, then it can relax into flow. It can be on vacation. What is it that's truly being longed for? What do you find, Sarah?
um, yeah, I find that it wants to get things done. It feels like I have to earn sleep in a way. Like you have to drop and sleep. But other than that, no. You have to get this and that done. There's an angry part that's really angry with this part. Um, it was screaming and just yelling, "What is wrong with you? I need sleep. I'm not doing anything now. Why can't you honor my desire for sleep?" And it got me so emotional that I feel like crying. Like this part is just so frustrated with the part that wants to get everything done. The moment I want to sleep and feel so
So,
sleepy.
so how about the innocence of these two parts, Sarah? Can we all, as we hear these two parts in Sarah, the one that's just If I get it done, then I can relax and I can go to sleep. But I got to get it done first because we hear that part. Then I can relax. And then we hear this other part that's so angry. Why can't we just let me go to sleep? It's late. I'm tired. So angry. Can those be welcomed? And can we see the innocence of both those parts? And Sarah, can we see the innocence of this part that really believes if I get these things done, then I can relax? And how it's trying its very best. It's very, I wish they had this part in Sarah and I love this movie Inside Out too. And I wish they had a part that was like this there in the movie. Because
It's I feel like it's a lot like anxiety because it worries about the stove, it worries about, just rechecking everything. So it
yeah,
feels like it's somehow a lot like anxiety.
yeah.
And the angry part just wants to strangle it, like it's just so angry with it.
Can we fall in love with it? And it's probably easier for us to fall in love with it in Sarah's system than our own systems. As we hear this one, it just needs to get it done. And can we see the innocence, the beauty in this part that's doing its very best, like a child, and just like have love for it? How are you doing with that, Sarah? From the spaciousness of being, can you find the innocence of this part? Can there be a welcoming and love of it?
Yes, yes, I can feel the anger simmering down a little bit when
Yeah,
it sees the intentions of this part. It's good intentions and it's innocence.
got it. So this is really pushing the edge here for all of us in this way. If there's like Sarah's angry part, this is really angry. This is not okay. And her other and this to do part, we got to get these things done before we relax. Could we really be the space, the capacity, the openness, the welcoming that can welcome them in their frustration, in their unhappiness, in their we need to get this done? Like, can that even be included? That dissonance. And what's that like? Does it feel uncomfortable in your system if there's really like a welcoming of that? No, we got to get this done. We got to do this. We got to do this. And this one that's so angry. And we might have a helper part that wants to fix it, wants to mediate it, wants to find peace for them. But is it possible that we could just accept them just the way they are? See if you can accept Sarah's parts like that. And then what's your version of it? An angry part and a part that's got these things that needs to be done that's not at rest. Can those be welcomed just the way they are? Wow. Final thoughts, Sarah?
Yeah, I feel some peace. So that feels better. Just being okay with both parts,
Yeah.
seeing their good intentions, and being understanding of the angry one and the one that wants to get everything done. Yeah, there's a
Thank
sense
you.
of okayness. Like, okay, I can accept both of them. And when there's that acceptance, there's just more peace.
Thank you. Can we all feel, I mean, in my system, there's discomfort in following Sarah and doing my version of it and having these parts that are dissonant, that aren't peaceful, and letting them and welcoming them just the way they are. What's that like for you? And do you have parts that come up? It's like, oh, we need to fix this, or we need to get some more space, or we need to take a break. Notice what plays in all of our systems. All right, then we can, if it helps you to shake it off a little bit, that was one
Thank you.
wild ride. And Sarah, you made up for disappearing last time. We all missed you at the end. Um, and so as we shake this off, before we go, Brenda and Eli, we only got for an hour today, and so I'd love to go to the two of them. But before we go there, anything bubbling in what Sarah just shared? Maybe any kind of nice to hear just a couple comments, something bubbling for you, what that was like.
Well, I'll say the part of me that wants to get things done sees sleep as something I need to get done. And there's a real strong protective part that says you realize, Jack, that yes, it's true, right? You not sleeping than you will from not eating. In other words, sleeping, you need to sleep before you need to even eat. That's how important sleep is. So yeah, my I'm pretty lucky because I don't have to like get up at a certain time in the morning. So I like sleep in two different blocks. I know I'm going to sleep for 4 hours. I'm going to wake up for a couple hours, do whatever I want to do, and then go back to sleep for another 4 hours. So not everybody can do that. So I'm not trying to project on anybody else, but I'm just saying that yeah, the part that needs to get things done, realize, oh, I need to get sleep done. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
that's kind of the way that works in me. So anyway,
Nice.
that's what was bubbling up.
Nice. Nice. Thank you. And can we feel in the Jack system that it doesn't seem to have a polarity like we find in Sarah's? He doesn't seem to have that polarity there, that resistance, that fight. Anything else come up for us about the dissonance, the polarity, the difficulties about the where Sarah took us?
Yeah, I just want to say I can so relate. I have a lot of parts around sleep. Not so, maybe not so much the overthinking, but fear around nightmares, going to bed, all these things. And so I have parts that push, like, hey, I have to go to bed. And others like, nah, 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 you know what? I want to stay up. And also, so I know this polarity. And I also know that it's not always easy. I know that I am okay if I sleep or not sleep. Right now, I feel very tired and exhausted, and there's an okayness here. But in that moment when parts are really up, it's just like, no, it's not okay. It just doesn't feel okay at all. So, yeah.
Thank you. I can relate to that. It's not okay. It's not okay at all. Brenda.
Well, I would say I do get my 8 hours sleep, and I like that because I know it makes me it's better for my life. But what I realize I'm really attached to that, and I'm one of the things I'm being more mindful of is letting go of attachment. But I realize I'm attached to that. One other thing I just want to say is, as she was talking, just thinking about sometimes when those similar parts come up in different situations, just that compassion. I just wanted Sarah, I'm thinking for myself that I know when I turn within and I give myself compassion when those parts arise, for me, it just helps to, I don't know, just to be in a better space. And I just wanted to send compassion to Sarah.
Mm.
Yeah, that was coming up from.
Oh, can we feel that? Brenda's love, Brenda's compassion, Brenda's understanding of the parts just the way they are and welcoming them with love. That's so nice. Thank you, Brenda. And Vendor, did you have a quick comment before we open the floor up to Eli or Brenda? Oops, muted.
Yes, I sleep okay. I get 6 to 7 hours sleep. It's not about the overthinking part. It's a bit of a polarity because morning is I want the morning to myself. If I don't go to bed on time, which I tend to, scroll the social media or listen to something, my overachiever, even before going to bed, I need to heal myself. That kind of disrupt my sleep at night. Yet I know morning, I'm more of a morning person, and I can attend this workshop. I'm much more productive. So there's that polarity, and there's parts that no, listen to this now. This is good. This is that's
Yes. Oh, thank you. And can we feel the flavor of her polarity, right? It's a little calm, it's a different flavor than what we have in Sarah's. And just to notice the polarity. There's more of a gentleness. I have a part more like Sarah's, this kind of active thinker. My system's much more like Sarah's. All right, that was thank you so much, Sarah. This was good. Did you have a thought, Sarah, before we move on?
Yeah, I think you said, I think everyone, I did relate to a lot of what you said. Especially what Jack said, like I have a part, just the same part that wants to get things done. It wants to get sleep done so bad that it wants to medicate, like, oh, we need to get some sleeping pills for this. And then there's a part of me that is against it, doesn't want me to be dependent on sleeping pills. But there's a part of me that doesn't feel good about that. And the quality of sleep that I get from them is not the same. Like it feels groggy when I wake up.
Yes.
Doesn't feel good, doesn't feel as good, but it feels better than having bits and pieces of a few hours of sleep.
Yes.
But then when Jack said that, I was so emotional. I realized like, oh, I do appreciate my part that wants to get things done. Even if it wants to get sleep done so badly, it would medicate to get sleep done.
Yes. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. So again, how for all of us, can we able to welcome all of these parts into our grand guest house, these flavors that we're hearing from each of us. And Eli or Brenda, who wants to go next? Looks like it's Eli.
Oh, it's me? Okay. I was gonna give you the floor, but I can jump in. There's quality of self that is just hands off, just like I don't need to do anything right now. Parts most active are like solver, practical, like, oh, I have to make this practical decision about something. So like let's weigh pros cons and figure this out. And then there's a bit of an anger part that's I wouldn't say like it's so active, it's more so just like it's just there in the background, just like to speak up kind of thing. That's just supporting in that.
What's Eli? When you speak of the self quality of self as hands off, does that feel more like presence, equanimity, spaciousness, okayness? What's the flavor of that hands offness? Emptiness?
It's everything's okay. You don't have to do anything in that space. So I guess okayness.
Let me invite everybody to that. When we hear Eli speak of that, everything is okay. Don't have to do anything. What's most like that in your system as a quality of this beingness, of this background? Like there's an absence of any kind of lack or stress here. It's just this okayness. What can you find? And if it's not accessible, maybe you could even tune in to Eli's and see if you can resonate with Eli. Maybe he can help us find it. This okayness. And then when we hear these two parts of Eli, this problem solver, pros and cons, we hear that part, and I'm going to make the right decision. We're just going to weigh it. And then there's an anger part. Notice how are we with that? Are both of them just equally welcomed? Can we welcome those? And where we welcome them from? Is it an okayness? Is it a peace? This welcoming? And what's the version of these parts within you? Can you find a resonance with this problem-solving part? How does that show up? Do you hear it? Do you see it? Do you feel it? The problem-solving part. It's like, I got to get these things done. And how does it, what's the voice of it? Is it a light one? Is it a feminine voice, a masculine voice? Is it a dense one? Is it more transparent, the problem solving? And similarly, when we hear anger, we've had anger we had anger. Sarah opened that door for us today. And then Eli also has this anger part. How does anger express in you? What's the feel of it? Is it like a military officer or an authority? Or is it more emotional? Is it more masculine or feminine? Where do you hear it? Where does it show up in your system? And lastly, is there okayness that anger is here? Do we need to fix it, to relieve it? Or can we be in this open space while there's anger here? Can that be included? And you can be in the space of okayness or peace even when anger is here. How does that play? What you got for us, Eli?
Nothing to add.
How is it being you today? How is it being Eli? What's it like being Eli today?
That's an interesting question. And there's just that like mix and back and forth of like it's okay, like good, okay, nothing to do, and then like things to do, things to work on, things to solve, practical things.
Like the back and forth for all of us. Can we all relate to that? Eli's describing, oh, there's just an okayness. Here we are. And then there's like, oh, wait, things to do. We start thinking about that. Things to do. We might even feel, but the things to do, do we feel a little stress, a little bit of tension in our body when that comes? And for us, is it a problem when the things to do comes? And does we have a part that's like, no, I just want to go back to the okayness? How does that work in us? Anything else? Anything else on that, Eli? Thank you. What is that like for all of this enjoyment of Eli, just the way he is? Awesome. Thank you. And so as we're about to go to Brenda, as we notice her square, as we notice my friend Brenda, like, what do we think is there? What's the beingness? Is it like Eli's? Is it this okayness? And does it mow back and forth? Or is it more like a polarity like we were seeing in Sarah's? What's it like? What do we imagine? What do we feel is here? What are her two loudest parts? What is her flavor of self? All right, Brenda, tell us.
The two parts that are coming up for me is just trust and attachment. And as people are speaking and I'm thinking about these two things, it's very easy, the part of me that feels very at ease and just trusting life in general in the process. And if I'm being completely honest, the part that's mindfully becoming more aware and refining attachments in my life, which I want to detach. I don't welcome that equally as I welcome the trust part. And yeah, I would like to, I mean, I understand that, okay, it is what it is. And, it's all a process and, I'm committed to personal growth. So there's the process, but I'm, hey, I would like to just.
Well, let's celebrate this. Let's celebrate what you're sharing.
I'm even grasping the attachment when I want to detach from attachment. I'm grasping, trying to let go of attachment. So yeah, I can kind of laugh at it.
Yeah. What about these parts, Brenda? How about the theater, Brenda? Like, how do we see it? Do you see it as a stage? How do you see it as she describes this? And then she speaks of this attachment part, one that just kind of attaches. And then there's another part that has a clarity of that we can trust. We can trust. And then I heard a third part that's like, yeah, and this third part has like a real preference for the trust over the attachment. And it's like, I'd really like to be less attached. And those are tricky ones. That one, that last one, we often call a self-like part because we're like, it's like, oh, that's me. That's me, this last one, the one that has the preference. But can we find that as a part? And what's your version of that? What's your version for all of us of a part that has a preference for, oh, I like trust, I like flow, I like peace more than I like attachment? Can we find that as a part? It can be a really sneaky one, this one, to really see it as a part. And can we welcome, can we like, it's almost like if it's a birthday party for Brenda's system, can we like welcome all of these parts? The one that wants detachment, that finds, and when we hear that, the one that holds on to things, that attaches, in Brenda, what do we think it longs for? What does it want? Why does it attach? Because there's this part that has a sense of, oh, we can trust. And then this one that attaches. What is it that it's longing for? What has it trust? What has it attach? What's your guess for Brenda's system? And then Brenda, what's your guess when you hear this one that attaches, this longing of it? What does it want?
I would think approval of being good enough, because I'm really attached to being a better version of myself through the non-attachment. And so it's this longing to just be good enough for myself and to make a difference in the world.
So as we all hear this in Brenda's system, be good enough and make a difference in the world. First, can we all relate to this? Can we relate to this? A part that wants to be good enough and make a difference in the world. Can we find a resonance with that? Is anything at all, any of us saying, really foreign to us? Anything that Brenda says, can we not? It's just, we know this, right? And then let's take it deeper. Like, what do we get for all of us? What do we get if we're good enough? If we interpret ourselves as good enough, what do we get from that? What do we find if we're good enough? What do you find, Brenda? That part was like, hey, I am good enough. I get it. Whoa. What does it get from that?
Joy really comes to mind. And
yeah.
Wow. And just the acceptance of self and all beings as is. And yeah, it's
the yumminess of that.
But what's that?
The yumminess of that. Like, if there's a sense of, right, we all have parts that to be good enough. And when if that's realized, like, we can relate to like why that part's yearning so much to be good enough, right? If it's good enough, what Brenda just described, wow, then there's like acceptance of what's here and of everyone just the way it is. And that, doesn't that feel yummy? It's like, whoa, it feels really yummy to be that. Acceptance of what is one that wants to be good enough. So as we hear that, like, we just can fall in love, we can just love it. We can see its innocence. And then we heard there was also a yearning to make it, make a difference, to contribute. Can we all find that we have parts that want to make a difference, want to help, want to contribute? If they do that for all of us, what is it that they're really longing for? Why is it that you want to help the homeless family? Why is it that you want to make a difference? You want to contribute, whatever your particular way is. What is it that you get from that? What do we find? What do we really long for? What do you find, Brenda? What is it that part is longing for?
Is loving self so deeply and loving all others so deeply and letting them know the love they are just as they are right here, right now. You know, we all have stories, we all have pasts, we all have habits. You know, we were born perfect, we are perfect, we have these stories and habits, you know, just to love myself just right here, right now, and in each person I come in contact with. Look beyond the appearances and beyond the stories. just love.
So by playing this game, by this part, this like I want to serve, I want to contribute, I want to care for, I want to love, that maybe we can get a taste of where you just spoke from. We are all love. We all perfection. Everything is beautiful just the way it is. Just as we can fall, like we fall in love with Brenda's parts, just the way they are. The one that says, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. I need to be good enough. The one that's like, I need to contribute. I need to make a difference. Here, where that takes us, where it takes her. Anything else, Brenda?
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Beautiful. And as we were celebrating Brenda's parts, could you also feel your parts being celebrated? The longing that they have as they resonate with Brenda's, as you found your version of it. You find that they were being accepted just the way they are and appreciated. Well, before we go to Judy, Inga, Jack, or Vendor, anything bubbling on what Brenda or Eli just shared? And before we move on, just how are you? How are you? This is a lot. This is a lot that we're exploring together. How are you? And Jack, did you have something?
No, I just had to hang up a phone call that was trying to come in. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. But then, like, how are you? And to some of you, like, this is exhausting because this is a lot here. Like, we're playing with welcoming all of this, including all of it, including those very passionate aspects of Brenda with their longings, like to welcome all of that. Is something a little exhausted. Welcome that. So how are you? Just notice what's here. What's here? I notice the part that's like, oh, we only have Eli and Brenda for another 10 minutes. I noticed that in me. And then it's like just what's here and what's it all arising in? What's this field? What's this shared field? What's the beingness that you're knowing here? Is it a welcoming? Is it that love that Brenda was speaking of? This everything is perfect and beautiful as it is. What is this welcome? Or is it more just a presence and okayness? Whatever it is. Okay, who wants to go next?
Yeah, I'd love to go next because I also have to go a little bit after the top of the hour. So
Yay!
I want to keep this short, but I just enjoy this, being here and feeling okay while I feel exhausted and tired. And just feeling totally okay, although all this is here. And looking at the most prominent parts, I had this one part that's like just angry, coming off a conversation, long and tiring conversation, and it's going over days and in the midst of a conflict. And it's like just before this call, something came up, and I had to end the call with this partner, and in the midst of it, and so that angry part was here. And then I could see also I would call it, I don't know, probably maybe best word, some kind of spiritual achiever. It's like, why? Why is this so coming up, so intense? If I've seen it, like I look inside and there's really there's a movement that's saying, what about me? What about me? But it's just not real substantial, And then this is running my life, so there's a real frustrated part about this. So yeah, those ones are here.
Question. Why is frustrated? Why is this running my life? What is it? What's it pointing to? What is it that's running here? Were you guys curious as well when we heard this? Like, why is this running my life? Like, what is it pointing to? What's it speaking about?
Oh, it's just so frustrated that parts have all this power, and that they come in and I get so blended, and all of a sudden, like, And this part is really, this frustrated part is really, it's really concerned about my relationships. I mean, it really cares, you know, like this is going to ruin my relationship, especially the anger. It's like, it's not okay. This one is certainly not okay.
Okay. And so how are you with this? For all of us, are we able to include Inga's parts? We able to include this frustrated part that's concerned about might be a risk to my relationship, something I really care about. Why is this running my life? Can that be included, that frustration, that dissonance, along with the angry part that's just tired of all of this? Those parts be included. And then Inga speaks of, oh, it's like it feels there's a total okayness. Although this is here, although this is happening, there's also a total okayness. This okayness, like Eli was pointing to. Is that weird? How do can we relate to that? Can we all find a flavor of okayness? Even while there's the dissonance that here, the parts that aren't happy, that want it to be different. Can we at the same time know an okayness? And does it feel like it's a tension? What's that like? Is it crazy making? What's that like in you, Inga, to have that okayness and also have this frustrated part and this angry part?
You know, there's almost, I really like that word, you know, there's in the tiredness and all that is here, there's also almost a yumminess, you know, like, yeah, there's an enjoyment of this. No, it's not crazy making it. You know, there can be so many things at the same time, like different emotions and
what's the yumminess even in the midst of this, like in the tiredness and the frustration and the anger? Is the yumminess found? Like we played with that a little bit in the dive when I was like, let's get closer to these parts. Let's really see what they're made of. What's their essence? Like, where are you finding the yumminess? Is the yumminess more in the okayness that's here in the background? What's the yumminess?
Yeah, it isn't enjoyment. It isn't complete openness and acceptance of what is, you know, the moment, like the part that says, I don't want to be tired, I have to do things. The moment that one relaxes, it's like, yeah, completely okay with all this. And then there's also, you know, I love to see it. Sometimes just look around what else is here, you know, the sense making parts and like, how does this all work, you know?
And then what about, again, for all of us, the dissonance, the parts that are frustrated, they're angry, that want something to be different, making sense of this all. Is it possible to taste a little yumminess, even in the midst of those, in the frustration, in the part that I gotta get to sleep, I have to get sleep. Something needs to change. I gotta feel good enough. That's so important. What about that? Can we taste a glimpse of yumminess in that, or beingness, even in the no, even in the no? Final thoughts, Inga.
No, it just came up for me is this, it seems to be more about remembering and getting to know this better and better, because I can see that now looking back on, for example, on the conflict, the okayness is still there, you know, it's in the midst of the conflict all the time. And so it seems to be more about getting to know this better, or recognizing it's always here, you know, just something that came out.
It's always here. Thank you. Let me contextualize this in the three views, or the three passive effortless IFS, what Inga's pointing to here. It's just like the first one, this direct path, is where we just get to know the beingness, this okayness, whatever the background is. We just get to know that. And we kind of have a loving indifference to the foreground, to the parts. It's just, and it's this, and it's playing with in any moment. Can I step back? Can I fall back into this? Can I connect with, do I know that this is here? Like Inga's saying, this intimacy with, to know that the okayness is always here. That's where we start. And then from there, we go to the second view, this Rumi's guest house, the celebration view or path. And this is where it's just a welcoming of everything. And this is where we get to know, get to know these parts, the frustration, the anger. There's just a welcoming of it. There's a love of it. And this is just, and sometimes we call it like soaking in the hot tub. Everything just gets to be met and welcomed. And then we're playing a little bit with the third view, which is this called the pathless path, like the perfection of what is. Brenda was speaking of that earlier. Everything is perfect and beautiful just as it is. And when Inga was speaking of the yumminess that's here, that's what I was trying to see if there was some yumminess even in the contraction, because this is the third view. When you notice that even in the contraction, it's made of this being, it's inseparable from it. And if you have parts that come up saying, oh, the third view is better than the second, or the second is better than the first, it doesn't seem to play that way. It seems to play more like moving amongst them all and just becoming aware of how it's playing in your system in the moment. Anything bubbling before we go to Vendor, Jack, Judy? Anything bubbling here in Inga or anybody else? Vendor! Oh, and Brenda's going! Thanks for being here, Brenda. Is this Eli going too?
Thank you.
Oh, bye, Eli. Thanks for being
See you
here.
all.
Thank you all. I'm gonna go too. Thank you.
Oh, and Inga too. Bye, Inga. See you soon.
Okay, bye.
Vendor, did you have something bubbling? No. Well, who wants to go next? We got Jack and Judy and Vendor, and Jack is unmuted.
Yeah, those parts come and go, don't they? We just had a bunch of parts ago. Yeah, for me, what I'm noticing is I'm not sure which of the three or four or five or however you want to divide it up. It seems like a really I want to say false polarity, but it's a polarity. But for me, it doesn't feel like a polarity anymore. Being and doing don't feel like two sides of the same coin. Maybe they feel like they don't feel different to me. That if I try to spirit them out, oh, this is being and this is doing, it's not, it doesn't make any sense for me anymore to try to do that, right?
Well, let me ask you something about that, Jack, because that's a big deal what you're pointing to, and see if IFS is helpful in this, because the idea of being is just coming from self, and often we think of doing that's coming from a part, but then
Right.
we have that discernment of burdened parts and unburdened parts. Burden, there's a sense of a charge, a want, a sense of getting something from doing, and then if it's unburdened, if it's an unburdened part, it's almost just like this expression of self, the dance of Leela, the joy of life. And I'm wondering if it feels like that's what you're speaking of when you say like the doing and being feels like the same.
I guess any kind of teasing out the difference between everything you just talked about just feels it feels it I'm trying to describe how trying to do that anymore. It just feels false. It feels like it doesn't feel like whatever the parts doing, right? It doesn't feel different than beingness for me. In other words, whatever's going on, it doesn't feel like it's different than being. In other words, they inform each other so much that it's just like it's one thing. And I don't know how to describe it better than that, other than it's a polarity that I've sort of given up thinking of as a polarity. That seeing that trying to separate those out is not really even helpful anymore for me, I guess. I can see where it could be helpful, maybe, but for right now, it's just not helpful. And then as far as which parts,
Let me just say something about that, Jack, because it's just for all of us. Dick Schwartz describes this as our center of gravity just kind of starts shifting, right? As parts update, as these clarities come, as self pervades the system more. It's like the center of gravity just organically shifts on its own. And just can we recognize perhaps that in what Jack's sharing? That wow, look at that. Just to notice that, see if we can even feel into it, because it's a beautiful glimpse of something. As he's like this sense of being and doing, I can't really find a difference, and there's just it's all this. Just notice how that plays in your system. If you can feel that, like a tuning fork, and you might also have parts that come up. It's like that are questioning it, that are trying to figure it out. But just see if we can. You just don't want to miss that. All right, second part, Jack.
yeah. And as far as parts that are prevalent, whew, I feel like I feel like I took a flashlight down into my basement, and I could actually see it. And it turned out what I thought were like prison bars were actually like playpen bars. And it was like I just visited this preschool, elementary school combination of all these parts. And what I was sort of became aware of that there'd been parts I've been trying to there's parts that I've been really repressing. Like, okay, like you guys all know when you walk along, if you go for a walk like in the woods, especially at night, right? That the moon follows you along. You guys have all noticed that, right? If you haven't, that's okay, but try it. That follows you along. And there's a part that knows that, right? And you can't, it's a young part. It can't, of course, I've been seeing it. What do you give me a hard time, right? Of course it's happening. But then there's other parts that go, yeah, right. We know what's really going on, but you can, it's like, and they repress that sort of magical viewpoint, right? And I'm okay with them repressing, wanting to repress that, but there's parts that go, well, we need to like listen to them more. You know, we need to, and was what I've been discovering is there's parts that feel way more powerful than they really probably are. And because of that, they blame themselves for stuff that happens. So I'm noticing, and there's got to be some anger about that, I guess, you know. So yeah, without getting into a lot of stories, I'm noticing parts that have stories attached to them that really um, feel way more powerful than they actually are. You know what I mean?
Yes. So, Jack, I would ask you about this. Like, first, what's that image like for all of us? So imagine Jack going into the basement, like Rumi's guest house. There's a basement, and this is where the young parts are and the exiles are, right? And I'm not inviting anybody to go down there. We want to stay like keep a real distance from that. We could just be aware of it. We're not going there. But but we're watching. Wait a minute, who is that? What's happening? There's Jack with his flashlight. He's actually going down into the basement, looking around, and he thought these parts were all be with like bars in jail, and instead they're in playpens. They're like it's like a preschool, an elementary school. What's that like, Jack, being down there with these young parts of you?
Oh, it's like being at a play school or elementary school. It's just wonderful. Or being with your grandkids, or it's like, you know, uh, yeah, there's a lot of magic going on down there, you know.
Does any
It's
do you
just,
find
you know, like you want to help them out as much as you can. You don't want them to get in trouble. You know, it's just like, wow, you know,
does fear
they're
come?
trying to
Do
grow,
you have
they're trying to grow, you know.
do you have any parts that freak out? I mean, this is like Indiana Jones material. This is a big deal. Going down the snake pit,
Well,
going
I'm
down the
so
basement.
glad that they're not like hardened criminals in, you know, Fort not, you know, like in some high security prison, which is what I thought it was when it was kind of dark and I was kind of looking down there, like, oh, what's going on? So I'm so happy that doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like that's going on. So
Yeah.
so that was like a relief. It was like, oh, okay, okay. So there's a relief to see that, is what I want to report.
And in
And
seeing that,
and I'll say one more thing. I've been sort of fighting you on the innocent side of things, but all this whole downstairs seems really innocent. I mean, incredibly innocent. So I let myself sort of open to the innocence there, maybe it just appeared differently to me. So thank you for focusing on innocence, or helping me focus on the innocence of the parts and seeing them a completely different way. So go ahead.
a few weeks ago, Jack, and you're welcome. A few weeks ago, you were like, I think there's a basement. I think there's a basement here in the guest house. And you were like, but I'm not sure what's there, and I'm not so aware of it. I'm not aware of what's down there so much, but I think it's there, and it's important, or something like that.
I thought it was a lot of hardened criminals down there is what I thought it was. Just like, just like people that had to be locked up. That's what I thought it was, right? That's what I was afraid, maybe, of that, what I was going to. It's dark, so what are you going to see? Anyway, but so yeah, exactly.
And then something opened. Something opened somehow. The door opened into the basement. Something, or maybe for some of us, for my system, it's more like a protector that's like, no way, and it won't even let me look in the basement. Then suddenly, it like something that protector relaxes, and then wait, I can take a little step down there. Like something happened with Jack where you can feel the freedom that he's describing going down there, and with the flashlight into the basement, nothing's freaking out in his system. And most of us, it does, right? It touches panic, it touches terror. And it's just, that's why it's just an organic process. And that's why this is effortless IFS. We're not doing, it just happens on its own. And my last question for Jack is, I'm guessing it's pretty tremendous just to be aware of these parts of us that we thought were like, criminals and, hardened criminals, some of them. And instead we see the innocence of them, and we see God, it's like a preschool and a kindergarten. What's that like? How does that change things? Any thoughts at this point?
Yeah, easier to talk to them, easier to love them, easier to listen to them and see what they think the moon follows them, and they're the cause of the moon moving through the sky. You know what I mean? So okay, I mean watching that kind of stuff pop up, or I caused that person to get hurt, or I caused this to move, or I caused this stuff. You know what I mean? And if you look at it from a different perspective, it's like, well, okay, maybe it did, maybe it didn't. So talking to him that way has been interesting. I'm not trying to get them. They don't really believe me.
Yeah.
Why should they? Of course I did. Of course the moon follows me. What are you talking about? Something like that. So it's interesting to have those conversations. But I'm not, and it's interesting not to try to blow them off. Oh, yeah, stupid thing. Of course I'm losing out. It's that sort of accepting is nice. It's more like a universal thing. Yeah. Anyway, we'll see.
Thank you. So how's this playing for us? Especially the sense of why he's saying some of these young kids, some of these young parts, they believe they were responsible for more than these big ideas. I'm responsible for this. I did this. Like, can you find that? Is that possible that could be in your system too? There's something wrong with the ones that say the shame, the wrongness that they've adopted, and it feels really big, but they're really just preschool and kindergarten. Just a personal note. Like when I was 8, my grandfather died, and I had a part that really believed he died because I didn't pay attention to him at the dinner party the night before he died. And this part really believed this. And the sweetness of being able to go down and be with them, as Jack's describing, going into that basement and just loving them just the way they are. It's like, wow, they have some crazy thoughts, but there's just loving them just the way they are. Whew. Okay, let's keep moving, because we've got 17 minutes left and we haven't heard from Judy or Vinder yet, but maybe just stretch, like shake it a little bit. That was a lot. That was really excited about where Jack took us. I think he brought, I don't think I was using the language of a basement of Rumi's guest house until he brought that up a month ago, and it just seems to have become part of the vernacular. Who wants to, oh, Judy's unmuted. Judy.
Yes. Gosh, I don't know where to begin, but it seems to me that the parts in the basement actually are providing a higher truth that we have disowned, but it is a higher truth. For example, if for example, if you didn't pay attention to your grandfather and then you thought as a child thought he died as a result of that, there is wisdom in that. There is a knowing, I believe, in knowing that how we treat other people has an effect on them. Now, clearly, that wouldn't have caused him to die, but in a certain way, yes, it may have caused him to shrink a little bit, or what do I want to say, disanimate him slightly. Maybe the what I want to say, the grand all the details may not be exactly in place to connect the action with the result, but there is a real truth operating there that we know. For example, I think, what was Jack saying about let me see, the hardened criminals, and they're hardened criminals because they've been, I mean, one believes they're hardened criminals because, well, let me see, this is not coming together exactly quite, but I have this sense, that all of these, the more we allow the parts to be a part of our lives, the more access we have to real higher truth. Real higher truth. We are connected to, I mean, that it seems to me that the okayness, the okayness.
Well, this is a really, so it's a really interesting question for us in this. The idea of once we include these exiles, these aspects of us that we've pushed away, that we've locked away, that we've buried, that we've said no to,
they become hardened criminals. Yes, they are, because of that.
When we include them, when we include them, what do we get back? What do we get back? Is it do we find that even part of our life force comes back? And if they're innocence or whatever's been pushed away, when these young aspects of us are truly welcomed, when everything is welcomed, when the basement is included in our guest house, what do we find? What comes back to us? Can we find like some life force? Instead of having a cup of coffee, we're just like welcoming an exile back. It's like, whoa, wow. Anything else, Judy?
I'm sorry, I'm getting kind of, let's see. Well, anyway, yes, it's the moon is following us from, I mean, if we can allow that to be true, we can, well, what do I want to say? I don't know. I just have the feeling the moon is following us, and it's like those parts of us that have been excluded. That's where poetry comes from. That's where the poets, the poets have allowed all of that, those parts of them.
Yes.
Because they understand more.
Like, how about Judy's enthusiasm here and like welcoming back these aspects that have been exiled, the enthusiasm, the poetry of it all, the art, the beauty, that Can we share that? Can we find that in our own system? Like the welcoming back these aspects of us that have been exiled, that have been made wrong.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes.
How about that? Thank you, Judy.
That's why it seems to me that's why we do this work, because we know this in our hearts, that this is imperative. We just know that we need to do this.
Nice. Okay, let's all just see how that plays in our systems. Can we include Judy's parts here? Judy's enthusiasm, Judy's clarity of welcoming everything home, bringing this life back, the poetry, the innocence, the youth back to us. Do you have a part that's like that? That's just like really enthusiastic and clear. Like, this is important. Maybe this is why I'm attracted to IFS. I love the IFS idea of Dick Schwartz's. It's like the bodhisattva path. It's a sense of we leave no parts behind. Everything gets to be welcomed home. Judy, I'm aware of our time constraint today, and like I'm wanting to hear what's going on for Vendor, and then have a moment to be able to include everybody. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Vendor, we've been waiting for you. Just before you go, as we look over at Vendor, what do we imagine is here? How are parts playing in her? Is there a polarity? Is there an enthusiasm? Is there a sadness? What are the parts that are playing? Is there a polarity? Is there a love? And what's it all rising in? What's the flavor of the beingness in her system? What's going on, Vendor?
This morning I just wanted to share a little bit of a success where I was kind of getting to know my parts. I was having blood work done, and it was 10 to or quarter to, and I left my phone in the car. I'm thinking I'm gonna miss the IFS, and yet I wanted to have that blood work done. I was witnessing both polarities. Should I leave the office and join in to find my phone? Is it in the car? Like, there was parts coming in, right? So I was excited, and I was hopeful that I can make it to the IFS, which I did. What Judy was sharing, my parts kind of got scared. The enthusiasm, and there was a discomfort. Felt like you're rushing. There's something going on, and I wanted to have that enthusiasm, but there was that discomfort too. Judy, it's not about, it's, I can see the enthusiasm, but my parts were scared. And the anger yesterday was coming up because I've been parentified, and yet I get pulled into all of my family members to help them, to fix things for them. And I was able to share my anger. Then guilt started to come up. I shouldn't be talking behind people's back. I should just do it. And I was angry because I'm in their bad books, because I just tell this is what's going on. This is what my perception is, in a respectful way. But these family members, just like my inner children, my sibling keep coming back to me for fix it for us. Yet they're their own, these are their kids, and how I'm supposed to fix. I'm having to attend to my kids, my inner kids, and outside world, they're having me to attend to their kids. This is it.
Yes, this is it. So how about all of that? All of what Vendor just shared. What's our system like with this? Can all of that be welcomed? Gosh, they keep asking me to attend to their kids. An angry part, and a part that has guilt for having the anger, in the sense of a polarity. Oh, what do I do? Do I leave this and go to get my phone? This tension. Because something that we're really playing with, part of this game, is to build capacity to be able to hold all of this. Like, if we can hold Vendors, it's often easier to hold someone else's than our own. If we can hold the polarities, the tension in Vendor, the anger and the guilt, I need to express myself. No, but oh gosh, I'm going to feel bad. And the sense of maybe wanting to help the family, but also like, wait, I need to take care of my own inner world. I need to take care of myself. All of that tension. Does it how are we doing with including that? And do we have parts like, well, I can include maybe half of that, but I can't include all of it? And then how about Vendor's part? Can we see the wisdom of that and just love it? Vendor's part that was like when Judy was coming and talking about the enthusiasm for going to these exiles, letting them come home and releasing this energy back, this enthusiasm and the love and the excitement for bringing that energy home to us. And Vendor's like, whoa, wait a minute. My system, I don't think I can do what Jack's doing yet. I don't think I can go down there with the flashlight and see the innocence of it. Like that's a lot. And just to hear the wisdom of that, and like what's our version of that, the wisdom of that. It might have been 15 minutes ago in this group, you might have been, okay, that's enough. I can't really open to anything more. I just got to be with what's here. Like there's great wisdom in these parts, that part of Vendor that says, whoa, that's a little too much for me. I'm not ready for that. Can we love the wisdom of that? Because we know what happens, right? If you have a spiritual achiever that keeps pushing, there's a cost to that. There's a pushback. There's a polarity. There's an equal and opposite reaction. How you doing, Vendor? How you doing with all that?
Mm. There's no okayness to it. Little bit of a somatically resistant, but okay to. I guess it was resistant before too. Yet I push myself to do all this work. When somebody else is talking about it, I think there was a comparison happening. I'm not doing enough.
Yes. And what's the resistance, the somatic resistance? What's it a resistance to? It's almost like this is too much. Wow, I'm feeling a lot here. This is exhausting. Or what's the resistance?
Perhaps I can't do it. There is that piece to it. I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
Beautiful. And so what about all of us? We hear Vendor's where it's the somatic resistance. How does that show up in us, this resistance? So it's like, whoa, slow down. Take it slowly. Slow is fast. Somatic resistance. And do we hear that? Or do we have parts that just kind of override a spiritual achiever? Oh, come on. It's just an hour and a half. We can keep going here. What do we do with that? I'd like to open it up. We've only got like 4 minutes left, and to see what's coming up for everybody as we're bringing this all together to closure. Vendor, any final words?
It's just gratitude.
Thank you. Thank you. Sarah, anything you'd like to share as far as where we've gone since you with Jack and Judy and Vendor?
Thank you. I really loved what Jack did with the flashlight to go into the basement. And it brought up a lot for me. I had to talk to some of my parts and to just try to bring myself back from the basement. But there's just this need to explore in the basement. And some of them are peaceful, some of them are not peaceful. Like some of these exiled parts, they're just so they're burdened. So they're not quite the joyful kids. They're withdrawn, they're scared, they're sad. They have all of these feelings. So so there's work for me to do with them. Like I have to be there with them, get them to trust me, get them to open up, get them to connect, get them to unburden, so they can be like joyful kids, and get them to get out of the basement and just be out there.
What's it like, Sarah? Like this is this, you heard me say like, hey, don't go to the basement. We're not going to follow Jack down there. We're just going to notice him, because I just wanting us to be so gentle and careful with our systems. What's it like doing what you're doing here, being aware of what's in the basement and kind of being with some of those parts?
Yeah, it's like this burning desire to be with them. Like once you know that it's there, you have to go there. Once you know it's there, it's like knowing there's a treasure in a cave yeah, it's scary, but you have to go get that treasure. That's how it feels from my system. Like, oh, I can't unknow that it's there. So I have to go there, and
Does it scary? Are there parts that react? It's like, whoa, are you crazy? What are you doing?
yes, there are some protectors that didn't want to go there. But I had to negotiate with them and just go there. It's more like the anxiety part that feels like, oh, what if something goes wrong? What if it's scary in there? What if it's dark? What if it's not safe? No, it's safer to be out here. But then there's this overwhelming desire to go there and to just get that treasure out, just to be with them.
Beautiful. I got another question for you, Sarah, just because part of my idea is I love the idea that we're all having kind of smooth, gentle landings as we're, about a minute left, but gentle landings as we go in these explorations. And Jack opened a big window for us with the basement, and you did the same thing, Sarah, in talking about that thinker part. That was like we had these two brilliant themes today. And I'm just wanting to make sure your system is all right, because there's a vulnerability in sharing about the thinker part. And everything all right? And if not, I'm glad to stay on a little bit with you. How you doing?
Thank you. Well, yeah, the overthinker part it's there. I call it the ADHD part. It has all of these thoughts, some of it was the thoughts about the basement, like, oh, you have to go there, you have to get this done. It's one of the things that you have to fix, the fix it.
Yeah.
The fix it desire, like, oh, you have to get this done.
Okay. I just want to share. Jack, Jack's going. Final word, Jack?
Thank you, guys. I do have to, it's 12:30, I gotta go, but thank you all.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you so much. I got a final word here on the ADHD. I don't like the label. I don't like the label because it's so easy to have some kind of derogatory meaning with it, like it's a problem. Because I want to suggest that as we heard Sarah's part, this active thinking part, we could just hear the beauty of it and the innocence. And like, I just fell in love with that part and how it was there to serve Sarah. And I love that. And I just want to thank you for opening that up for us, Sarah. It was such a gift. And it seems like there's a piece here, almost like Jack's basement, that might stay with us. And I just want to thank you. Thank you, everybody. And it was such a treat to be with you today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sid. Thank you, everyone.